last 12 years in professional wrestling, but how could you be associated with the likes of Gary Hart?
You get the message, Steve? He doesn't want to speak to you. I'm his manager and his advisor, and I'm completely trusted by him. If there's anything you want to know, why don't you talk to the man that can tell you?
Well, maybe you can explain to me and all these fans out there who are wondering exactly like I am. This was one of the biggest things that ever happened. You've been telling us for weeks that you had a surprise. There's been talk around the wrestling world, but nobody has ever really confirmed what you were talking about. And what did it take to get Bruiser Brody into your side?
Well, to answer your first question first, number one, I don't really care what you think or some nitwit or moron out there thinks. I could care less what anybody thinks. Your second question was, how did I do it? What rumors have you heard?
Well, I heard rumors from the likes of General Skandor Akbar and other men who are well known around the professional wrestling world that you were working on a big deal through Japan.
That's exactly right. And I tell you what came about. Tim Brooks and I, maybe 5-6 weeks ago, we were at my home and we were looking at some tapes that Tim Brooks had brought back from Japan. And lo and behold, up on the screen came Bruiser Brody and Killer Tim Brooks in a tag match in Japan. And I said, Brooks, how in the world did you become Bruiser Brody's tag team partner? How would Bruiser Brody sign to be your tag team partner? And Tim Brooks told me that the highest paid athlete ever to appear in Japan, no matter what you've heard, because I've had a chance to see it in writing, Bruiser Brody. No one makes as much money in Japan as Bruiser Brody, and Brooks told me that's why it happened, and click, it went in my head. I said, wonder how much I would have to give the Bruiser to get him to stand beside Gary Hart. And it was a considerable amount of money.
Would you mind telling us exactly how much money it was? I mean, are we talking of $100,000?
Check it out.
$1 million?
$1 million for 1 year. Flip it over and see who signed it.
That's Bruiser Brody. That means it's paid in full. I guess he got his $1 million in his pocket already.
He's well taken care of because you and Miss Maurice Rose and Miss Fred Barron put me in a cage and was going to feed me to one-man gang, was going to feed me to Big Bubba. And I told you, and I told the nitwit Barron, that nobody is going to put me in jeopardy. So I took the killer's advice. I got myself on an airplane and I flew to Tokyo. And I went up and knocked on Bruiser Brody's door, and I made him a proposition that he couldn't say no to. And I said, Bruiser, what would it take? He looked at me like only Bruiser Brody can do, and he held up one finger. I said, 100,000? He said, no, 1 million. For $1 million, my services for a year. And don't worry, whatever happens in San Antonio when you're in that cage, no matter what the outcome, Big Bubba or Moon, either one, will harm a hair on your head. And you were sitting ringside, and I don't have a lot of hair on my head, but I wasn't harmed, was I?
No, you weren't. And Bruiser Brody, if I could ask you, does this mean you'll be traveling now being the enforcer for Gary Hart?
Don't you understand? Are you a complete nitwit?
I've known this
You
man
asked
for a
me to
long
come
time.
here, and I said I would. Now you're trying to stir trouble. The man is the $1 million man. $1 million from my pocket into his pocket. Now I don't have to worry about nothing.
Let me ask him. Now, if somebody comes along with a little more money, that means you just walk out on Gary Hart?
Steve Stacks, I'm telling you, and I want to make this perfectly clear, I don't have to worry about Big Bubba. I don't have to worry about the one-man game. I don't have to worry about Wahoo McDaniels. I don't have to worry about nothing. I have carte blanche. If I want to slap somebody's face, I can do it because the Bruiser says I can. If I want to stomp you in your face, I can do it because the Bruiser says I can. Because I put my money where my mouth is. I'm not a lowlife like you and Fred Barron. I put my money up front, and I get what I want, and I think every dollar of that million was well earned. Because you know what I can do now that I have Bruiser Brody? Anything I want to do, it ain't nobody gonna stop me.
Well, let me ask Bruiser Brody one more question.
Hey, I work for Gary Hart, and he pays me real good money.
Little man, brother. Did you get the message, little man? It would have been just as easy for him to crack your neck, Steve Stacks. So if I was you, I would keep your nose out of our business. And Fred Barron, bring them all. Get your Wahoo McDaniels, get your one-man gang, and get your Big Bubba. But what else you better get? You better get yourself a hospital. Because I'm telling you, he's gonna cripple so many that you're gonna need it just to supply